Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman, and this is kind of a off-the-cuff video. Nothing scripted in my videos, because back in the day, this is what YouTube used to be like. So it might go kind of long, but this is a response to the video, To Atheists and Agnostics, Just a Question. And it's from Nicole Danae, D-A-N-A-E 8520. Sorry, I'm horrible with usernames. And she asked, how did we go down the path that we went down as far as belief? And I used to be a fundamentalist evangelical. And I am now an agnostic and have been for quite some time, as many of my viewers know. So I was really questioning the motives of believers in the church, because I heard the kinds of things that were being taught. Then I looked and seeing the types of actions that was being committed and done. And then I thought, why is there an inconsistency? So I put that in the back of my mind. Then I had a world religion class, which was excellent. And then I read Power of the Myth by Joseph Campbell, who is still a big hero of mine, and Burton L. Max, who wrote the New Testament. If I got it right now, it'll all be highlighted with pink. That was probably one of my first texts on New Testament criticism, and I remember to this day when my buddy Richard showed me the documentary hypothesis of the Old Testament, where possibly different time periods were spliced together. He had them all color-coded, and he handed it to me. And I almost got sick to my stomach, and I said, Richard, I said, so all these are spliced together from different time periods? And he just shook his head and said, yeah. And so that was a real eye-opener. So that got me excited about textual criticism, got me excited about biblical archaeology, biblical criticism, and it was interesting. So you were talking about getting both views. I only knew the evangelical historical ideas of the Bible. I only knew the evangelical theology of the biblical text. I didn't know the Jewish ideas or what other belief systems thought about it and what archaeology had to say. Some who were more secular, we all knew what the evangelical archaeologists said. And I wanted to know how much evangelicalism romanticized history, because it happens. And I know you don't drink, and you talked about the terribleness of drinking, but when you talk about religion, you got to have a beer. So I'm going to crack one open. So then those questions happen, and then I had a youth group, and we would do a bunch of different things. And the kids in the youth group, being in this fundamentalist church, weren't treated the way they should have been. And a lot of guilt was placed on them for not following certain rules and regulations as far as dress and stuff. There were poor families, and I lamented the fact that the belief system could not accommodate those kids. And so I pulled them out, because if they could not be accommodated to that situation, then those kids didn't need to be there to be guilt-ridden. So I ended up, questioning the belief system about that. And what I found was interesting, we still, as agnostics and atheists, have I feel, I do personally, I'm not going to speak for everybody, I learned not to do that. I still have a moral responsibility to believers and non-believers. So if I know people don't drink, I won't drink around them. My mom, uh, bless her heart, still an evangelical, she don't drink. I wouldn't go to a restaurant and drink in front of her. Uh, a family member, if they're poor, I wouldn't go and have a beer with them because they should be spending their money feeding their kids rather than drinking beers with me. So there's that. My little nephew, I never question the ideas of religion and belief systems with him because the way my sister wants him raised, I can identify with that. I wouldn't want people doing that to my kids. So I do believe I have some kind of moral responsibility to believers. So it wasn't that I wanted to do different things because my belief system was really strict. And it was more or less me questioning what was more important, following rules and regulations or following righteousness. And then I asked the question, the Good Samaritan, was he an evangelical Christian? Was he a Christian at all? And was the Good Samaritan in heaven? And the answer would probably be yes, because he did good for goodness sake, not caring about the selfish desires of heaven, because many people are like that now. They say, well, I got to get to heaven, so I need to do this. You say, well, why are you doing that kind of act? Because Jesus wants me to do it. But for doing good out of virtue, for the sake of doing good. So people say, well, you can't get to heaven without Christ. Heavens was filling up for me because I knew Moses was up there. He was on the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus. Elijah made it into heaven without Jesus. Enoch, Joshua was seen in heaven as some kind of high priest in the Old Testament literature. And I realized that the Old Testament wasn't really the Old Testament once I started reading Jewish ideas about their own texts. So now even the word Old Testament kind of irks me. I try to call it the Tanakh. And then I realized just how much Christianity overtook the meanings of the Tanakh and implied their own meanings. So they, in a sense, maybe hijacked. So I had to quit reading the New Testament for like maybe two years to finally clear my mind of everything that I was reading into the literature, to finally read it as Judaism reads it. And then I said, well, what else is happening? And so as I investigated, I think that it got to the point where I started seeing belief systems from a global perspective as abstract expressionism that can both hurt and benefit a society depending on how it's used. So the reason why I stopped in the middle as agnostic, I didn't want to end up being identified with atheist extremism because I still, after reading Joseph Campbell, really respected the ideas and symbolism of religion and how it worked on the human psyche and the process of individuation, becoming the individual, breaking out from the parents. You talked about that, this rebellious stage. It happened to us all, and it's a process. So reading Job, seeing how accepting both good and evil from God rather than saying it's Satan, it's false. Job, sitting in the ash pile, scraping his sores, knew that he was afflicted by the arrows of the Almighty, and knew that the evil that descended upon him was from God himself, and sent by God himself, and said, should a person only accept good from God and not evil? So then I had the idea of questioning, original sin. Was this sin that people are born into, or is this a natural process? and I fully believed it was a natural process. So people can accept evil from nature, and I say, oh, nature's awesome. She gives us everything we need, but she also takes everything away. So I seen God, you say, wait a minute, God's not nature. I know that. But referencing nature and using it as a comparison is kind of a way that people, I believe, should view the divine. You say, well, nature gave me my cornfield and I can eat. Well, across the world there was a drought. So, creator and destroyer at the same time. That's how I see the Jewish God. So, a lot of the rules and regulations ended up being simply retaliation to what was going on in the culture. And I think that a lot of rules ended up developing due to anti-assimilation policies. People were afraid of losing their cultural identity. And so a lot of these fences were set up. So I guess my question is, what rules do we follow? We don't know. Because some Christians would highlight one rule more than others. You yourself in the video, after Christ is talking about divorce, gave an exception to divorce. If we can give an exception to divorce, why not give exceptions to homosexuals? We don't do that. And that's what I always wondered. So it was such a relief when I left, because I didn't have the social pressure. I could explore, had all the time in the world to explore on my own without the social pressure and the group pressure of being forced into thinking a certain way, thinking a certain theological way about a text. I can blow right through it, and I can answer their questions about it. And I feel comfortable telling them that they're wrong. And a lot of the times, I might agree with what they're saying, but I'm no longer afraid to get in a good, healthy discussion with them when I think that they are blatantly wrong. And so I think that becoming independent and through the process of individuation gave me a little bit of a backbone. So yeah, Adam and Eve were kicked from the garden, but they are now individuals. They have to work a little bit harder because everything isn't given to them. They know that they're human. They know they have to be self-reliant because they were kicked from the utopian state. But once you're let back into that utopian state, you very much wish that you weren't even there, because sometimes it's a miserable state. So that's one reason why I'm agnostic. But I still have a responsibility to virtue. I still have a responsibility to justice. I still have a responsibility to mercy. And I still have a responsibility to righteousness. So, whatever that is. Those terms are abstract. They change constantly within societies and cultures. We don't know what they are, but a lot of times we know what they are not. We know what they are not. So, take care, friends. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Be well. And remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.